Okay, right now we could have 2 billion people watching us online right now, Andrew. What do you think about that? How cool would that be?
That'd be pretty sweet, actually. Yeah. I mean, the more the merrier.
I would love to hear, like, what would happen if 2 billion people got to hear your message that we're going to talk about today, about kind of accessing their potential and seeing their full ability. What do you think would happen with this planet?
I think it'd just be a happier place. I think we'd have more people just really just drawing from their natural sense of self and just, moving forward in life, from their best self. And I think that's probably the best way to describe it.
Beautiful. So thank you so much for being on. Now we are doing a Facebook live stream, and this will also be a podcast later on in the Dadpreneur Revolution. And we've been in contact for quite some months. I think we met in the Dad Edge community, Dad Edge Alliance, probably even, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, awesome. And I really appreciate you because you continue to show up, and I'm seeing a little bit of your journey of your evolution. Like, you've been training as a coach, and you started to showing up, delivering content, inviting for sessions, showing some results, and it's great inspiration. And I love you're taking a lot from the psycho-cybernetics. I'm super excited to see about your journey and your realizations. So could you tell me, like, with your coaching strategy, could you share, like, what do you think people are missing out on when it comes to, like, self-image or way they act or see the world?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say the journey for me was a pretty long one. I mean, all the way back to probably about 2010, I went to a Tony Robbins event, and
UPW, which one?
Yeah, UPW. Yeah, that's correct.
Awesome. I've been there.
Yeah, I mean, it's an awesome event, and I love Tony Robbins stuff. And what I found was that it took me a long time to really implement his material. Like, we're talking years. And and I was doing all the stuff, like, doing the affirmations, going outside and doing the hour of power and stuff like that. And it never really felt true to myself until I kind of came across psycho-cybernetics, which was about 2018. I kept seeing tons of people just saying, like, I got this book, it changed my life. And so I was like, okay, like, there's obviously something here. And what I really found with the psycho-cybernetics program is that it really just helps you discover who you are as a person. And it's not, going out and doing the affirmations and, trying to be this person that you aren't. It's like actually developing your own skills, understanding what your skills and talents are, and really then just showing up to the world. And to me, it's amazing.
But that's a huge difference. Like, can you speak about, like, what do you see is the difference? How do you actually, like, harness, like, the personal power and not someone else's idea of power?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So one of the key concepts of psycho-cybernetics is actually looking back into your past, so looking back into what are some of the greatest moments that you've had in your life, and when I say greatest moments, that's almost a stretch. It's like, what moments in your life have you been successful? So Maxwell Maltz talks about in the book, like, if you can worry, I forget the second part, or tie your shoe, basically that's a successful moment. So it's almost, when you're looking into your past, it's just figuring out, okay, like, that was a moment where I felt happy. For me, I always think of 3 moments. I've got lots of them, but I think of 3. It was the day that I got married. It was the day that my first son was born, and it was the day that my second son was born, right? And the beauty of that is, what you do is that anytime you look to visualize a goal, you use those past achievements, those past successes, as sort of like a fuel, as a way to feel good as you start to then look at your future goals. It's a really cool process.
So you can go into the, like, high state of what you want to create from the past. Like, this is actually true. This has actually happened, instead of going like, okay, this is kind of a shitty morning. I'm kind of a little bit anxiety. I don't know what to do. And then it's like, okay, I'm happy. It's like, oh, no, I'm not. I'm happy. Is it more like that?
Yeah, Exactly. And it's just, when we try and stretch ourselves in that sense where, we try and bring something into our lives that are not necessarily true, like, chanting like, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire. It's like, well, no, you're not. Like in your brain and your body, like they know what's going on, and they're gonna fight that the entire way.
Yeah,
So it's really a matter of, like just really finding those past successes and then bringing that into your life and just being your natural self, right? Like most people, they don't realize how successful they've been in their past, right? Because they get beaten down over the years, they get told negative things. And it's, so when you can sort of switch that mentality from a failure mentality to a success mentality, things change. Things just naturally change.
Was it, like, for example, in my life, so I think it was 5 years ago, I'm running a business for like 11 years, I think, and 5 years ago, one of my businesses went bankrupt. And
Right.
it was like huge challenge for me, because like it changed my whole self-image. I know you speak about that a lot in the psychocybernetics, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that changed my self-image. Like, I don't want to go bankrupt. And then I did, and it's like, if I do, that equals failure. That was like my identity that I created before. And then I did that, and I couldn't provide for my family, like all these things. And then I made a huge turnaround within 6 months. But then I still experienced, like, it took 3 years before I could actually say, okay, that sucked, but I learned more than from anything before, and kind of become empowered again. So can you share, like, what could I've done kind of quicker to make the transition, and like after that, I sold 2 businesses after that. So like that's the opposite of the bankruptcy. Like that's for me, like in the standards, like the ultimate success. But what do you think? How could I gone much quicker into that place of power instead of place of victimhood?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, being in that position of bankruptcy and stuff like that. I mean, that's it's easy to say, oh, you can do this or you can do that, and it'll just be
Yeah.
magical. I mean, I think that that's a challenge in itself, and it's a struggle. There's no doubt about it. I would say that again, one of the best ways that you could sort of approach a situation like that is just see it as like a guide point, right? Like when we have failures in life, that common saying is that it's not truly a failure unless you just give up, right? So obviously in your situation, you had that situation happen. It's a not a great, it's a very frustrating, horrible situation, but you kept going, right? So there was some part of you that sees that as, yes, this was a quote unquote failure situation, but I'm going to use this as a guidepost. I'm going to use this as a part of my journey to go forward. So I think it's just a matter of keeping that, front and center, and knowing that you're going to recover. You're going to come out of that situation better than you ever were before.
Yeah. That's beautiful. So what I heard you speak about that like we have so much more potential than we kind of realize, and I think this is a very powerful way to kind of focus on the wins. Tell the stories of winning, tell the stories of heroism or heroinism, or whatever we call it, right? But are there any other steps, like to go into real like implementation, or like to go from the visualization, or how can we step through the visualization in a powerful way and make that into reality? What's your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the discussions that I've had with some of the people I've worked with, they do struggle with the relaxation techniques and the visualization techniques, and they feel that it's just it's so out there, it's so crazy. And I always kind of tell them that's like, what, I'm a very like, just straight and narrow person. Like things have to work for me in order for me to accept them. So when I look at the relaxation techniques or visualization techniques that you can get from psychocybernetics, I find that they're very practical. And the cool thing with them is that they really do improve over time. Like you start small, you start with very simple relaxation techniques where you might visualize your favorite vacation spot, or, just some of your favorite memories. And then you can start to kind of expand on those techniques. And then what you want to start doing is actually looking again, as we talked about, like you start to visualize your past achievements for a few minutes, you know, the moments that really stand out to you. And then from there, you're feeling good. You start to then transition into like, okay, what is my biggest goal that I'm working on? Or what are the things that I'm working on right now? And you start to visualize those goals as if they've already happened. Does that make sense?
Okay, what do you mean? Like, how do you visualize it as it has already happened? Could you share that, like, about something that you're working with right now, like a goal you're going to achieve, and how your visualization, or how the kind of the tape, or how you speak?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, even for example, like this morning, like I actually already visualized this call happening, right? So, because what could happen is that I could get nervous on the call. I could, who knows what could happen. So
yeah.
Again, all I simply do is just take a few minutes and just visualize the call from beginning to end, and just, seeing a free flowing conversation, having a good time. That alone just automatically makes you feel better as you approach the situation. And that's the beauty of the visualization techniques, is that you can really just apply it to any scenario. So whether you're going into a sales call, or whether you're going into, a high pressure meeting, if you just take a few minutes beforehand and visualize it sort of playing out before it happens, you just feel like you're in a better state going into it.
And do you visualize the kind of worst case scenarios, or do you only visualize what you hope to happen?
I mean, in the situation of visualizing this call, I would just visualize, the best case scenario, right? You can, though, and that's the thing. Like, if you were to say visualize like a sales call, this is standard role play stuff, but you'd want to visualize, people giving you objections, so that you could answer those objections, and then when it comes to real life, you're ready to answer those objections, right? So, yeah.
So when you spoke about the relaxation and visualization, you spoke about this kind of slow start, a slow journey, how to get into it. And that's so valuable, because we are in such a high-paced society, and especially online, it's so much input. So can you share how to kind of accept that, to don't have the perfect visualization, not have the perfect experience, but allow it to take, a week or a month or 3 months or whatever it is, until one really can harvest the power of the visualization? So how can we invite more patience into that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I always look at things as like, give it 30 days, right? Try and just not judge the situation for 30 days, or 20, as long as you can, pretty much. But the one thing that I found is that when it comes to meditation and that type of stuff, when people first start out, they always feel like, oh, I can't think, or, I have to sit still. And if I can't do that, well, I can't meditate. And really, it's just getting into the practice of deep breathing and feeling, aware of the environment that you're in. And, there are a lot of great apps out there that you can get. Like, there's the Insight Timer app, which is a free app that has like tons of guided meditations. And, and then there's also like the psycho-cybernetics resources, but there's so many resources out there that if somebody is truly struggling to start a meditation practice, I would just say, the easiest way to do it is get, an app like the Insight Timer, and just spend 5 minutes, 5 minutes, and just, don't judge yourself, no pressure on yourself, just try it out, and just, kind of keep building from there.
So part of what I take from that is to focus on have it as a process goal, not as an outcome goal. Not like, okay, now I will achieve this in this amount of time, but actually I commit to the process of being there, being present, doing my best. Whatever happens during this amount of time. Is this like time boxed 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, and whatever happens, it's fine. I accept myself. I love myself for just doing my best in that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you said it great.
Thank you. So what I hear from you, like, you did this Tony Robbins work, and I'm sure you had a lot of other inputs, and you did the Hour of Power and done the same. What is the saying? What did you say?
There's times, there's, like every day and every way I'm feeling better and better. And it's funny, like I do use those still, like if I'm running on the treadmill or something like that, and I need to, get that quick boost of motivation, like I'll use it. But I mean, I think that there's better ways sometimes.
So because we all have this voice, many voices in my head. Anyway, I don't think I'm the only one.
Me too. All day. Yeah.
And I love some of my voices so much more than others, or anyway, some are speaking much more about the future me that I'm putting effort into becoming. But could you say, like, in what very specific way has your language patterns to yourself, or kind of your confidence, or how you relate to others, how has the practice of psycho-cybernetics made real changes? And I really want to get the real, like, words or the sentence that you're telling yourself as a change.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I really think that one of the best things that I found with psycho-cybernetics is that you just, as you go into, kind of over the days and the months of kind of reading it and practicing it more and more, is that you just start to really trust your decision making a lot more, because they talk about, really, the idea of intuition and just, what they call the success mechanism in the book, where we have so many thoughts in the days, and we have so many ideas that come up, that, and I think that oftentimes we don't really, we don't give those thoughts credit as much. The only time we really pay attention to them is when they're negative, right? So it's a matter of, I feel that when you start to have ideas come up, or you need to make decisions, and your gut tells you, okay, like, let's just go with it, right? Like, let's, like your gut comes up with a decision, your mind registers it, and the more that you kind of act on it, I feel like you just start to build confidence, like you build confidence, and your decision making just gets faster. So I don't know if that truly answers your question, but we can continue to dive in on that for sure.
Was your experience that you are, like, more confidence and better decision making kind of power, more clarity, or quicker in that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Can you share, like, do you have any specific, like, thought pattern has changed? Maybe it's like before, it's like from not being enough to being empowered, or do you have any of this, from things are never enough to things are more than enough? Do you have something that you experience that's actually really shifted?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question. I would just say that for sure, because, I think, even a year ago or a year and a half ago, like, I do marketing work. I talk to people quite often. So, when it came to, say, copywriting or stuff like that, I'd always critique, every line, and it felt like it had to be perfect, or else I wouldn't send it out, or that type of thing. And what I found, again, from Matt Fury, who's the president of Psycho-Cybernetics, he's got stuff on copywriting, but specifically that, just kind of, you already know what you're doing. You have the skill set of what you're doing. So it's just like having the confidence to just act on it and go, right? A good example is, like, I had a friend who he wanted to email somebody, and he was basically like, critiquing every single line. And I was like, you know what you're going to do? Just write the email without giving it any thought and just send it. And to him, like, there was such a powerful thing to just be like, wow, I can actually do that. Like, I don't have to sit here and critique this for an hour. I can just write this in 5 minutes and go. And that's, I feel like for most people, that's what they have to start embodying more of, is just, hey, I've got the skill set, I've got the talents. Let's just go and see what happens.
So what does that actually mean? Like, say, if you don't have the experience, you want to do something for the first time, like, for example, you're starting a coaching business for the first time, right?
Yep.
And then you say you're ready, you have what it takes.
Yeah. So, I mean, in that situation, I mean, again, you work with what you have. I mean, when I look at a coaching business, it's like, yes, I might not be like Rich Litvin or, some of these, like, really marquee coaches, but I still have skills that I can share with the world. And ultimately, in coaching, not a lot of people have coaches out there, and not a lot of people have somebody that they can talk to that it really has their best interests at heart, right? So that alone, to me, is enough fuel to kind of get things going. And then from there, you just find the right mentors and people to help you continue to build on that. So, and I really do think that you can kind of apply that method to any sort of skill building, where you draw on your life experiences, because you do have lots of life experiences, and then you just find the best way that you can educate yourself, and then don't stay in that zone of education and learning. You then start to want to take action on it, right?
I think that's a beautiful, like what I hear you say. It's okay, you don't have experience of running, say, a successful coaching business, but you break it down. It's like in this puzzle of running a successful coaching business, what does it take? And it's like, okay, you have the skills of coaching people, and you have the framework of psycho-cybernetics, and for sure other frameworks also, and you have the best interest at heart. And it's like, if you put these pieces together, and I'm sure it's like questions and active listening, and you're like, that's actually enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get social skills and all this, like, that's actually enough to do something that you don't know, and therefore you already got it. Is that what I hear?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, from there, just find people in your network that you can connect with, whether that's, for me, for example, like I did start doing coaching for free, just sort of, helping people out, and just really building my skill set to the point that it's like, okay, I feel confident, moving forward with this. Right.
Yeah. And I appreciate you saying that, because I speak to a lot of startup coaches, and it's like, okay, now I'm building on my 100K business. Like, no, you're not. You're building on your $100 business. That's or $1,000 business. That's what you're doing now. Like, first step first, and then next.
Absolutely. You have to keep it realistic, right? I mean, exactly. That's the easiest way to describe it, is that just, keep it realistic, because when you have realistic goals in place, you can always build on them, right? Like, you can have 5 steps, that 100K could be the 5th step, but what are the steps before that to get there, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know one very powerful strategy that I don't really know what it means, but you speak about visualization, and the psycho-cybernetics speak about also verbalization. And then there's something called virtualization. And what is visualization? Then you most use your vision, and virtualization you use like different kind of senses. So you do use listening, and you imagine the smell and the taste of the experience that you are about to have, like the success, like how does success smell like, right? And but can you say, like, verbalization? Do you speak it out then, or what is that about?
I usually don't use the verbalization techniques too much, but you can. And I mean, really, it just comes down to, again, like the best comparison for the verbalization is when you look at like the standard like affirmation out there, like the I am a millionaire, or I am, the healthiest person in the world. It's like, that probably isn't going to register with your brain long term. Like, your brain is going to reject that. Your body's going to reject that. So instead, it's shifting your verbalizations to be like, I will be an Olympic champion, or I will be a millionaire, right? So it's telling yourself that it's like, hey, I'm not there yet, but if I can, if I continue to take the actions, if I continue to take the steps forward, I will be there one day. Right. So it's a matter of just sort of shifting, your verbalizations in that sense.
Yeah. And then let's bring it into something very practical, because I know you're an advocate of, effective scheduling, bringing like an inclusive life. We have, family, business, and general life. So what are you thinking? Like, what are people missing out there to create an effective, like, time management strategy? And how do we win that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, how I kind of look at, the coaching program that I've sort of developed is that, like, psycho-cybernetics is sort of that first piece, and where, once you get sort of your mindset aligned and moving in a direction that serves you, is forward moving, what you want to do, because, from there, what you want to do is you want to tie that into like a very effective and productive scheduling system, right? Because I feel like sometimes psycho-cybernetics gives you the how, it gives you, the strategies, the relaxation strategies, visualization strategies, but it doesn't actually, ultimately it says, just do it for 30 minutes a day. Or, and for some people, they're like 30 minutes, like, I don't have 30 minutes to do this, right? So that's where you then bring in that scheduling piece. And I feel like the two combined are very powerful because, yeah, once you can kind of, establish, okay, like here's my goal that I've established from the Psycho-Cybernetics program. Here's the scheduling system that I'm going to use to get there. It works really, really well.
Awesome. And how and what are some good inputs you have for me and the viewers and the listeners, how they can develop more effective scheduling?
Yeah, I mean, I can just shoot out some great resources that I've used. I really like using quarterly goals. So the book called The 12-Week Year is definitely a great resource for establishing like a quarterly goal system, and then from there, I really like. I've kind of combined a bunch of resources over the years, but there's another. So there's a book called The Warrior Book from Wake Up Warrior. It's run by Garrett J. White. I really like his system. It's also a quarterly system, but he actually breaks it down into, okay, you've got your quarterly goals, and then you're going to have, a monthly review. You're going to have weekly check-ins, and then you're going to have a daily schedule and a daily routine. And what I find is, just those resources alone, it kind of really builds the system where it's like every day you know what to do because you've got a full 12-week plan to kind of work within.
Yeah. I think that's so powerful because the issue, like one of the challenges I've had is to, make a long-term plan, but how do I make it sense in the, weekly or daily or hourly basis? Or can I make a day plan, but what's the impact there? And they kind of have one format that kind of encapsulates all. So I know I'm on the path and it's doing the right thing now for today, but also for, the future generations even, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. The Warrior Book.
Yes. Yeah. So the 12-Week Year by Brian Moran, and then the Warrior Book by Garrett J. White. Those two resources are definitely what I use.
Awesome. And we soon going to round off. I would like to hear you, like, what are the takeaways? Like if someone goes into your coaching program, what are, the big promises or what are the results that they can expect to harvest out of that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely say it's very, you'll get the pieces that we talked about on this call. I mean, what I really like to dig into is, again, sitting down with the person and really helping them review those past accomplishments, really helping them see that they are a success. And then using those, once we're there, then, I take them through some of the very, high level visualization practices from Psycho-Cybernetics. So that they know that, they've got this one big goal to work on and they know exactly what that is. And then, so once we've kind of delved into the mindset side of stuff, the last part of the coaching program is that scheduling component. And I basically, I work with them with the schedule that they have right now. So I'm not just like giving them worksheets and being like, okay, here you go. I'm like, no, like, let's dive in. Like, let's look at your schedule and figure out, okay, where can we time block stuff or where can we be more efficient so that ultimately they can get their work done faster so they can have more time to spend with their family or get workouts in or that type of thing.
And that's like, so you're obviously practicing this because you have a job. Do you have a full-time job now?
Yes, that's correct.
You're a wife, you have 2 kids, and you're starting a business. So, like, I know there are a lot of dads out there, like in that position, are kind of have to do the job because of it brings in the money. But how do you make it work? What are and for the people who are like, oh, I would like to get started, but I don't know, if it's right for me, if this is the time, if I should save up more money or whatever. What do you have to say to them?
Yeah, I would say, there's never better time than now to get started. I think it's just a matter of being realistic with yourself and with your family. I mean, I think one of the best things that I've done is that my wife and I, we've scheduled our nights, in a sense that like, I take certain nights of the week. She takes certain nights of the week to do her physical activities or, that type of thing. And then we have a couple nights a week where we get to, have our date nights or hang out and watch a movie. So I think that's one component of it is like, you have to have strong communication with your spouse and just, really, schedule things together. And again, you don't have to be rigid on that, but just find a way to start implementing that a little bit more. And then I think the other part of that is just being realistic with yourself. Like if you have, 10 hours a week to work on a business or whatever you're doing, you know, what are and make sure that they happen, right? That's the easiest way to do it. And the way that I like to kind of figure out how much time do I have is I time track things, right? So, when I'm working on my business stuff from week to week, I time track, okay, how many hours did I do this week, right? That way I kind of have a good idea of, okay, week to week to week, this is how many hours I can get in.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that with the inclusive and like bringing the partner. Like I did completely change my life and my relationship. I think we've been doing that very kind of rigid scheduling for 4 weeks, for 4 months, and it's completely changed everything from communication to relaxation to trust, and everything became so much easier. Just to have like we do 20 minutes a week, and it makes everything so much better.
Absolutely, and it's one of those things too. I think people might fear like, oh, it's too rigid, I don't want to schedule my family life. But it's like, honestly, your partner will probably be way happier. And, just the fact that you're making the time for them, that, because I find with my wife that, she works so hard. She does so much for her family that just knowing that she has that time scheduled for herself, rather than it just being a random spur of the moment thing, I know for a fact that it really benefits her.
Yeah. Beautiful. So do you have an invitation for anyone watching or listening to connect more to you, to check out what you can do for them, or what what's your invitation?
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody that's a part of the Dadpreneur group, feel free to send me an email. My email is andrewlmundy@gmail.com. Or they can connect with me on Facebook, and just I'm happy to have a conversation with them, and just kind of do like a discovery call, just kind of talk with them and just see what's going on with their life, right? I'm happy to do that for sure.
So it's like, can you say what situation do you think they should be in if they want to call you? Like what's the challenge, what's their desire for being a good fit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do look for people that are going to take action. So, I definitely hold people accountable and push them pretty hard, in my own program. So, I'm pretty open in the sense of what they're working on in their life. I mean, if you're starting up a business and you need some help just with the mindset piece or the scheduling piece, like I'm happy to sit down with you and kind of like look at what your schedule looks like in that way. And also, I think that's probably the easiest way to say.
Awesome. Beautiful. And thank you so much. I really appreciate your input and your generosity and your excitement about your insight about psychocybernetics, your personal experience from it, like to hear how your life has transformed and how you're giving the things that have supported you away to the world.
Absolutely.
That's such a beautiful leadership. I really appreciate that. And it's such a big invitation to all the dads around the world. Like, let's do that. What we know best, that's brought us value. Let's share that with everyone and find a way and the time to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it really just comes back to kind of that first part that you talked about when we said, like if there are 2 billion people on the call, I just find that it's just that there's so many people that just feel stuck or they don't feel empowered to kind of go out and go after their big goals and dreams. And, I really challenge that, in the sense that it's like, just start somewhere, start today, and just, just hone in on the skills and the abilities you have, because people do have them. You have really amazing things, and just start building from there.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Andrew. And thank you so much for viewers and listeners to the Dadpreneur Revolution. And we will soon be back again with another amazing dad showing up, living his best life possible and being there for his family. Stay put, Andrew, and see you other guys later. Bye-bye.
See ya.